Today I'm going to show you how to create this from this. Bear in mind, I don't create videos. I've only created this one so I can show people how to do it because I was asked. I'm in no way good at creating videos, but we'll give it a go. Tools we're going to use are Adobe Photoshop, Topaz DeNoise AI, and Adobe Lightroom. You might not need the Topaz, but it is extremely helpful if you do. From here we're going to move into Photoshop and we're going to use Command T to adjust the size of the eye to make it fit perfectly. You want to leave a small gap at the top though, just in case, for the top of the eye. From here you want to use the square selection tool to measure the width of the eye. Using the number that you've got there, which you can see is 2422, I can now move over and use the circle selection tool. From here in the fixed size, I can use width and height of those two numbers I just measured, and this will give me the exact size of the eye. Slowly just adjust it so it fits exactly perfectly. Once you've got that selection done, you can use Command C, Command V to copy and paste it, and then go ahead and delete that background layer. Now that we're just left with the background layer, use Command T to adjust the size of the eye to make sure it fits the center. Use Command J to duplicate the layer, and from here we can use Command T to rotate the eye. You make sure it's the top layer. You're going to rotate it until the eyelids are no longer in line with the other image below. Select and unselect the top layer just to make sure. Now that's rotated, you want to get your eraser tool and you want to change your flow and your opacity down. There you go. And you want to also change the size of the brush. You want to make it slightly small, but not too small, so you're not erasing too much of the image. From here we can just slowly start to erase the eye. I'm going to speed this up a bit. Now we can check and uncheck the bottom layer to make sure we haven't left anything really harsh in the image within the section we've erased. Now we've got the details of the eye done, we can use the square tool again and the circle tool to work on the pupil itself. So measure the outside using the square, go back up to the circle, and then create the correct size for the size of the eye. You may need to adjust this slightly if the iris does come into the circle. You don't want that, so make small adjustments. From here we can use the brush tool and increase the size of the brush was slightly bigger than the circle we've made. We're going to go down to the two little boxes in the left hand corner and we're going to select the darkest part of the pupil. Now we're going to click multiple times or just paint within the circle to get rid of any of the little imperfections in it. It doesn't have to be perfect yet, we'll finish that over in Photoshop. From here we're going to use the same brush tool, make it smaller just to go around the edges to make it fit a bit better so it's not harsh though. From here now we're going to use the spot removal tool. We're going to adjust the size so it fits just slightly bigger than the imperfections, and we're going to start to take them away. You can use content aware, but because this is just a demonstration, I'm showing a quick way of doing it. This is just much faster. Content aware, you will save a lot of those details. Just going to speed this up now so you don't have to sit here and watch me remove all these details. There may be a better way of doing this, but this is the way I do it. Now we're going to export the image as a PNG, and we're going to move this then over to Photoshop. Make sure it is selected as a PNG, it'll make editing a lot easier later on. Right, now we're in Lightroom. This is where we're going to do the bulk of our edit. First thing we need to do is make this a square. So going into your crop tool, making sure it's locked. Click optional, and then click one by one and slowly adjust this so it fits the size of the box. You want to leave some little gapping around the outside of the eye, just for editing later in Photoshop when we move back there. Now that we've done that, we're going to increase the details in the eye and increase the contrast, shadows, pretty much playing about with the eye, trying to make it exactly the way we want it to look. Don't worry about sharpness too much because we're going to work on that in Topaz. But from here we're just going to do a rough edit on the eye. As you can see, I'm increasing the darkness here so I can see any imperfections in the pupil. We've got one here, easy fix. Just go over to your spot remover, decrease the size of the spot remover so it fits the blemish perfectly, and then just click over it and it'll select another part. Make sure it does select inside the pupil so the color tone matches. Hold space, so you can move around the eye and then slowly look around for any other imperfections. If there are none, we can now move back to editing. From here, just keep making small little adjustments until the image fits right for what you're looking for. You can play with the colors, you can play with everything, just don't try and take it away too much from what it's supposed to look like. Now we even use the selection brush and make sure auto mask is selected. You want to select all the dark areas of the eye. If you accidentally select an area that isn't too dark, it's an easy fix. You'll see here that I do it. I've got too much. Command Z will undo it. Easy if you zoom in, so you can select areas that are just dark. I'm going to speed this up a little so you don't have to watch me select the whole eye. Don't forget you need to also select inside the pupil so it matches. From here, we're going to increase the contrast, the darkness, the shadows have a bit of a play. By increasing the darkness in these areas, it'll give a lot more depth of field, a lot more contrast to the image, making those details come out slightly more. From here now we're going to export this as a PNG, and then we're going to move over to Topaz to make all those details really punch. Now in Topaz you've got remove noise and enhance sharpness, and you've got standard, clear, low light, severe noise and raw. You want to have a play with each of these just to find which one works best. Each eye can be slightly different. This tool is best for really making those details punch. Just up the top you can see an option saying original. You can check and uncheck that just to see the before and after. I find standard though is the best to use. So by just playing with the enhanced sharpness, remove noise, you can find that little blend so it's not so gritty and you get those really nice sharp lines. Once you find that sweet spot, you can then export it and move it back into Photoshop. Now we're in Photoshop, you want to click solid color, you want to change it to black, and you want to put it as your first layer. Now use Command T on the layer of the eye just to make sure it's perfectly in the center. From here now we're going to do the same as before. We're going to use the square selection tool to measure the eye, so we can figure out how much of it we need to take off, because as you can see here we've got whites to the edge of the eye. I don't want that, I just want it to stop at the details. So I'm going to take those numbers, go back to the circle selection, but here I'm going to use Command T, make the eye slightly bigger, so when I type in those numbers the circle is slightly smaller than the eye. Numbers, we can get that circle. Now it's slightly small in the eye. I can use Command C to copy, and then Command V to paste. And then once I've done that, obviously making sure it's in the center as well. Now I've done that, I delete the bottom layer and it takes away those edges. I'm going to use Command T again to increase the size of the eye, because I've still got a bit of white, and then I'm just going to select against the selection circle tool selected, and then same thing, Command C, Command V, copy and paste to take away, and then delete that bottom layer again. If after all that the eye isn't perfectly in the middle, Command T just to adjust where the eye is or make it smaller and bigger to fit what you want. If it is perfect, you can just go ahead, export it, make sure you change it back to JPEG. That's how we turn this into this. Thanks for watching. It's DE Still Photography and DE Iris Photography.